Hello there everyone, in today's video we're going to take a look at HMRC's advisory rates for electric cars. So, I think most people know, if you've got a car, a petrol or diesel car, that is your personal car that you use for business purposes, you can claim the good old 45p a mile. I think everyone's familiar with that. This is different. It's not a personally held car, it's a company car. So let's say you're the managing director of your own business, manufacturing your widgets, you've done a bit of tax planning, you've spoken to someone like me and said, look, get yourself an electric car, save a few quid on the corporation tax. Very good. Minimal benefit in kind on the income on the income tax side of things. Very good. But what else can we claim as an individual driving the company electric car? Notwithstanding the fact we got a good deal on the corp tax and the income tax. What if we're using home electricity to fund business travel in the company electric car? How much of that can you claim back? So I would suggest not many people know about this, even those who have had electric cars for a while, but you need to be aware of it. So here's the rules. First thing to say, unlike our 45p a mile cousin that I've just referred to, which has been the same rate for donkey's years, and I'm talking decades, with these advisory rates for electric cars, they change every quarter. So you've got to keep your eyes peeled and look at HMRC's website, because these rates change every quarter. They don't stay the same for decades like the good old 45p a mile. So right now, from September 2025, how much can you be reimbursed from your company if you're an employee of the company driving a company electric car, or if you're the boss, you're the director, shareholder, driving the company car? I mean, it applies equally to other employees, but a lot of people who watch these videos are business owners, so assuming you're in that situation, 8 pence per business mile for home charging, but 14 pence a mile for public charging. So basically the cost of electricity is less, the domestic supply of electricity is less than the non-domestic supply of electricity, basically. That's why there's two different rates. And the government accept that, listen, you've got an electric car, you're going to have issues with the range still. It's still pretty early days for electric cars. So you ain't going to be able to charge your car at home and do every single journey without recourse to charging somewhere on the M1 on a long journey, right? So when that happens, the reimbursement rate is higher. It's 14 pence, all right? So let's look at a practical example, because you may say, okay, well, how are we going to work out which miles we drove on business where we charged up at home and which ones we charged up on the road? And HMRC say, well, you're just going to have to work it out on a fair and just basis, notwithstanding the fact we're going to give you two different rates, and there's a more generous rate if you don't charge at home. So let's take a little example, right? So let's say we've got Mr. X, owner director, shareholder of his widget company, and he lives in Leeds. And he's got to do a 400-mile round trip to London town, all right, in his electric car that the Tesla owns. It's a company Tesla. But he's got a charging point at home, so that's what he normally does. He normally charges it. Sometimes he forgets, doesn't do it all the time. So let's just have a little look at this example. So Mr. X tootles down the M1 and he gets as far as LFE, Leicester Forest East. So you know the one just south of Leicester where you can sit, have your lunch, have your coffee, overlooking the motorway? He makes it as far as that services, which is pretty bang on halfway between Leeds and London. It's about 100 miles down the M1. So, as a matter of fact, we used to meet up there for raves in the early 90s when I was at Loughborough University. That takes me back, Leicester Forest East services. Anyway, happy days, I digress. So, 100 miles. but he's run out of juice. Now, assuming this car's got a 200-mile electric range, so basically he forgot to charge it at home before he set off on his journey. So this green dot here on the left, he's got 100 miles out of this car. He's got to call in at Leicester Forest East for the services. Charges it in full tank, or whatever you want to call it, full battery, charged up, fully charged, Leicester services. He's going to get 200 miles out of that, so he pretty much knows that's going to get him to London and back to Leicester Forest East on the next day when he's got to come back. So, finishes the journey, boom, 100 miles to London. Next day, comes back, he's done his 200, he's got to charge up again at Leicester Forest East. He's done his 200 miles, that's the range of the car. So, charges up in full, it's only 100 miles back to Leeds, great. So he's got home, no bother, range anxiety relieved. But what can he pay himself from his company? What can the company reimburse him as an employee for making use of the company car that he has suffered the bill personally for the electricity to power it? All right, well, let's have a look. So, first of all, the first bit, Leeds to Leicester Forest East, 100 miles. Well, all of that was used, assuming he hasn't done a long trip in a while, all of that would have been powered by what was at home, his charger. Yes, that particular journey, the morning or the evening before, he didn't charge it, but basically the 100 miles that it was left in was powered from the home charger. 8 pence a mile, okay? 100 miles, 8 pence a mile, £8. So on that leg of the journey, the company can reimburse him £8. Company gets tax relief, travel expenses, motor and travel, £8 taxable deduction in the P&L. Either wire him £8 into his personal bank account or credit his director's loan account. All right. Next bit of the journey. 200 miles from Leicester Forest East down to London, back to Leicester Forest East services. 200 miles. Now that is all powered from the external charger on the M1, not his home charger. What does HMRC say about that? 14 pence. Very good, more generous. So 200 miles at 14 pence. His company reimburses him 28 quid on that element of the journey. So far, we've had £8, £28. What about the final leg? Final leg, back to Leeds. Well, again, he's filled up, he's charged up at Leicester. That's not home, that's external. That is another 14p per mile of business travel. So that's 100 at 14p, which is £14. So his company, for this entire trip, can reimburse him 8 plus 28 plus 14. That's what he can get out. Now, of course, that money to him is tax-free. It's not a benefit in kind. He's had to foot that bill personally, and the company can reimburse him that, and the company gets tax relief. But here's the thing. Let's assume as well that this guy, he has a service. I said he's manufacturing his widgets. All right, let's assume now he's got a service industry where he's working from home, so his home is his base, so we can ignore the whole thing about you don't get tax relief on commuting. He's just literally going from his base, his home in Leeds, to somewhere else in Yorkshire, all right? Somewhere up here or the northeast a few days later. And let's just assume that is 125 miles one way. So you say, well, okay, but how do we work out the reimbursement of that? And HMRC say, well, it's got to be just and fair. But if you think about it, at that point of him setting off, so he's got home from his trip to London, he's got back on half a tank, half a battery, right? Which he's charged up at the 14p rate. He's then got back home on half of it. He's plugged it in at home, and he can fill up, and he can claim that at a lower rate again at 8p. And I'm saying the next journey, he's done 125 miles. But actually, if you think about it, half of what's left in the battery is going to be at the 14p a mile rate, and then another 100, because he's depleted half of it when he got back. So the next 100 is going to be at 8. So you can see how it's a little bit tricky. That leads to London and back seems straightforward, but it's the next leg onwards where actually you got to say, well, okay, technically on that full tank that he's got, full battery's worth, at that point coming back from his trip to London, the next 100 miles, 14p, and then the next 108, because remember he's still got 100 that he had from Leicester Forest East Services. So you wouldn't, it's tempted to say, well, surely he's just going to say that was charged at home, he does 125 miles, boom, it's 125 at 8p, because that's the last place that he charged it. But he didn't fully charge it because it was already half charged, the other half being when he suffered extra costs down at Leicester. So that's, you can see in that circumstance where it's a bit fiddly. But that's a fair and reasonable thing. You've got to work out how much, what's the cost of charging, what percentage is left. And it can get a bit fiddly. That's quite an easy example, but you've got to keep contemporaneous records. If HMRC ever knocked on the door and said, show me your mileage claims on your electric car, this is what you've got to do. So not only have you got to try and work out which parts of your journey were charged from the home charging point and which from, you know, the ones on the motorway, you've also got to keep an eye on the changing rates, because as I said, these could change every quarter, unlike the old, your own personally held cars at 45p a mile that everyone knows and loves. So this one, watch out for, because it changes every quarter. So 2 things on electric cars, but it's worth doing. It's worth the aggro, because I would suggest a lot of people don't even think you can do this. You don't even claim any of this. Or they may have heard, oh yes you can, but how you do it? Well, this is how you do it. You've got these advisory rates. If you're paying for electric personally, which you will be doing at home, and then externally, if you're paying for it personally at the charging point, how much can you get reimbursed for those business miles? So, interesting video on there, just eking out a few more quid from your limited company. If you're an owner manager of your own business, you've got an electric car, don't forget, claim a few quid back on the electricity used to power that electric car. If you like this video, please do subscribe, and as always, I'll see you soon.